So first of all, what I want to discuss with you a little bit. First of all, the evaluation plan, a summary of the evaluation plan, what are the steps, then evaluation criteria, and at the end, evaluation metrics or evaluation framework. Okay, first let's focus on the plan. And thank you, Laura, because you discussed with them before. It helps me to make this exercise with them. We will not put on the flip chart because I thought at the beginning that the room will be bigger, and I realized that it's important not to sleep in your chairs, and I want to make you move a little bit, but now is not the case. So first of all, let's see if you can mention one step of the evaluation, at least one, and to discuss a little bit these steps before I present the whole steps. So each of you one step, it's okay? Needs assessment. Problem definition. Problem definition needs assessment, yes. Then remember what I said 2 days ago when I told you the steps in the evaluation. So needs assessment, problems. What we have to know? The scope. The scope of the evaluation. Yes, we should define from the beginning the scope. The scope and clear objectives. What I mentioned to you, that sometimes it happens that the client discover at the end that what they want is not what that you deliver. Okay. Something else? Okay. Define outputs, outcomes. Yeah. Okay. Then what we have? Theory, program theory, yes. Then, at what course you are here? Theory of change. No, I don't think you are at theory of change. Theory of evaluation. Theory of evaluation. So we should do the theory of evaluation or not in the steps in the plan. Always. Always. You okay? Next. Out of outcomes, we should think about how to measure them. Okay, and if we think how to measure, I'm thinking about impact, indicators, yes. Then data collection, of course. Okay, but in the plan, well, I will see you what we put in the plan, but I want to see what you understand. Until now, after 3 days, you aren't impressed that much. Data collection, data analysis. Stakeholders. Okay. The presentation, okay, Andre is trainer, of course. Presentation, because I told you that it's important in the presentation to see what are the client's needs, what the client wants to present and not to present, because you know when you finish the evaluation is not yours, it's of your client. So you should discuss with the client what the client wants to present and not. Even if you will put everything in the report, you cannot present everything. So I think it's important to discuss with them. Yes.
You do the report, you receive the feedback, you insert the feedback from the client, and then you do the build and you receive the money.
Okay, this is the final part. Okay. You understand until now perfectly what we have to do. So first of all, the goals and objectives. Don't forget to look at what are the project, program, policy, goals, and objectives. So this is the first step. Because in this case, you look also at the needs assessment that you have at the beginning. After you see this, you define the goals and objectives of your evaluation. And don't forget to negotiate with your clients all these goals, objectives, even if you will have this normally in the terms of reference. But sometimes it's important to discuss again with them about what they want before to define the goals and the goal and objectives of the evaluation. Then you should look at the theory behind the intervention. And when I put intervention, I mean program, policy, project. I think it's simple to mention intervention, but intervention means all this. Why we should look at the theory behind the intervention and not only at the theory that we have for the evaluation? What is the difference between theory for evaluation and theory behind the program?
It's about the concept, giving you details and also perspective on what you will do afterwards. It helps you understand.
Yes,
actually.
but also it helps you to understand the program, the intervention here. Not only what you have to do in the evaluation. It's important before starting the evaluation to understand what was behind the intervention. What do they consider they want to do? What theory they use? What hypothesis they have at the beginning? Then we should develop the evaluation criteria and questions based on the project programs, objectives, outcomes, output, impact, and everything. Then, after we define objectives, goals, we go to make the methodology. It's very important to have this part of methodology. Most of the time, when you have evaluation, you have an inception report. In this inception report, you should make a first context analysis and also to introduce the goals, objectives, and methodology. Then to identify the evaluation methods, to make the data collection, to develop a data analysis plan. Why is it important to define the data analysis plan?
Have the whole database and do not end up with a baseline meeting. You don't have the data that's necessary context for to learn about the beneficiary.
Yes, it's correct. Yes, and because we have many data sources and many data, normally it's not only one method. Normally you have not only one data that you put. You have to triangulate data in your evaluation. So maybe you have quantitative data, you have qualitative data, but you have a lot of other data from your research, which sometimes could be included in quantitative, sometimes in qualitative, but sometimes are between them, let's say, also quantitative and qualitative. You should look also at a lot of administrative data. That data could be quantitative if you have databases, and maybe you can have secondary data analysis, but also you can have secondary data analysis of qualitative data. So don't forget about all these things. And it's important to have this data analysis plan, because sometimes it happens to put in an evaluation the analysis of the questionnaire, let's say, of the survey, then the analysis of the qualitative data, and then the conclusion. Is not the case. So if you want to triangulate data, you should combine all this data, because each method brings you the data from another perspective. It's another lens to see the data. Then to create a timeline is very important, and the client always wants to know the timeline. And if you can do everything in 2 months, it's perfect, but you should fix with them that sometimes it's impossible to do it in such a short term. Then to determine the roles and responsibilities for each team member. And also at the end to develop the reporting plan. And what I suggest to you is to discuss with the client the structure of your report. Because sometimes they want to add some issues, sometimes maybe you miss some information that for the client are important, and it's important to give them the structure and discuss this structure with them.
Yeah,
Yes.
for me, when I say evaluation plan, I'm thinking about the evaluation plan which the managing authorities, which are managing the fund, help to develop for their entire program. So that's what I mean, but this is not the evaluation plan
Of the
here. It's actually something like the plan you are making for one evaluation. To carry
Yes.
out one evaluation, which is like
Yes.
when you, okay, good, I just wanted to understand.
No, because we are not the managing
Yeah,
authority.
no, but
We should make our plan for evaluation.
Yeah, no, so I was confused, actually, I was confused because my mind went different.
But you can tell us what is the difference between the managing authority plan for evaluation?
Evaluation plan, it just covers more evaluation.
Ah.
Basically, let's nothing like that.
Yes, but in this case, I consider that it's important for them to know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
are
no, I
for
just-
them to.
No, I just wanted to verify for me.
Okay, evaluation criteria. Just a minute.
Oh.
Okay. First of all, because we discussed in the first day about this criteria, and you mentioned today that we can be creative when we define the criteria. Let's see what criteria you know. And then we will go to see the OECD and maybe to discuss about the other type of criteria. Competitiveness. I know we have a lot of discussion on this. Sustainability, okay. Okay. Inclusiveness, yes. I want to know what you understand by sustainability.
The program's gonna last.
Okay.
Yeah, we had this discussion, right?
Okay.
Sustainable like rain, or the sustainable, the program is gonna last. I can't remember from the first day.
Okay. Okay, we will add some more elements of this sustainability. Because normally, yes, it's if the program produces effects after the end, but sometimes we should add more, because if we consider the SDGs and
Yeah.
we should put more, but we will discuss. So inclusiveness, okay, then
Relevant.
relevant, yes, efficiency, effectiveness. Scalability. Scalability, okay, could be introduced of in sustainability.
Yeah, good.
If a program could be scaled.
Creative enough.
Because if a program could be scaled up, means that it is sustainable,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I was
Complementarity, okay, but it's incoherent.
Specific criteria, like currently we're using Kirkpatrick model, which has for the training programs, and it has like practice and learning participants. So that's what the criteria that we're using. Well, it's
Okay.
very specific, I understand, but generally like the participants learning reaction, that was the.
Okay.
innovation can be a great thing.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, but like cutting edgeness. Like, whether it's project innovative enough, you know?
Yes, but you know, to define innovation is very difficult.
Mhm.
Because sometimes innovation could be defined as innovation for me at the local level, at the national level, or could be something that is innovative in the world. It depends.
But it can be in two ways. Innovation is something completely new that you never saw before, or innovation is also putting the same puzzle pieces, but in a different format that is coming
Yes,
up with
but-
something different.
But thinking that maybe for a municipality could be new to introduce, I don't know, some smart technologies. This is innovation or not?
Yeah, that's a discussion with, when there's adoption of a public policy at the local level, right? The national level, you're gonna establish a policy, then the municipalities can adopt on all. It is innovation, not the
But
discussion.
why we have all these problems to define what is innovation?
When we work with social sciences, and it's always difficult to.
We could also, but we define what, we define coherence, we define effectiveness, we define efficacy, we define relevance. Why is it difficult to define innovation?
Comparison to
We
what.
don't. We don't because there are officially accepted definitions of innovation. For example, OECD Oslo Manual has offered the definition, which is a worldwide standard in the area. But in the context of evaluation, I believe that we should use the definition which is appropriate for the context or the field in which the evaluation is being held.
Are you sure that the OECD definition about innovation is completely accepted?
Yes, in my field, because my field is innovation management, it is accepted. And when we are doing some data analysis, we are always taking into account that definition. And also, especially when we are talking about innovation in the business sector. For example, the Community Innovation Survey, it is actually based on the definition of innovation from the Oslo Manual. So when the companies receive this survey, which is asking them, are you, I don't know, innovative in this year? They have the definition of the innovations from the Oslo Manual.
On social innovation?
Yes, it is included in a way as well. So the results for Serbia and probably for the majority of European countries are that over 40% of companies are innovative, which is like unbelievable, because we always think that the companies are not innovative, but if they have bought something new for that company, or I know some new software, it is innovation, and they click yes, we were innovative this year. So in that sense, we are all innovative, but it depends on the level.
Yes, it depends on the level.
Yeah.
What I mentioned 2 days ago is that it's important the definition. Sometimes, also at the EU level, we have a confusion in the definition. And it's very hard when we have these confusions in definitions to put this criteria and to measure it correct. This is the main problem. And we have this also in social economy, because I saw that social economy is social innovation. Okay, really social innovation? Until what level is social innovation, and after that is not? It's not so clear. If we don't have clear definition, it's very difficult to apply the criteria. So that's why, even if you want to introduce new criteria, please put the definition. It's important to understand what you understand through the criterion that you mentioned there.
But you could also argue for sustainability criteria, as we did a few days ago, because what can be sustainable project-wise
can be
Of course,
unsustainable from different point of view. I mean, I don't know.
Of course. I think this is the most beautiful part in evaluation when you use criteria, because you have to define them. This is the most important part, I think, and then to define what you put in each criteria.
So criteria could be anything that we define it. That's the question. And for instance, unintended consequences. It would be evaluation criteria, or it would always be just part of, one area that we look at.
No, I think it's part of one area, unintended effect. I don't think that you can have this type of criteria.
So not everything can be. a
No.
criteria.
No, not
It should
everything.
be cross-cutting.
Okay. I will try to present OECD criteria because it's very difficult criteria. Okay, but this is the Latin language. Criteria are more.
I object, we use criteria.
No, because criteria means more, criterion means one. It's like with curriculum and curricula. Okay, so the most well-known are these criteria developed by OECD, Development Assistance Committee, DAC. That's why we call them DAC. In 1991, but at the beginning, there were 5. Relevance, effectiveness, efficiency, impact, and sustainability. Then in 2019, they add one more, coherence. And what I should mention is that some other funders, some other grant makers, international institutions use some more other criteria. So there are not, these criteria are used by everybody, no. They define their own criteria if they need, and depending on the evaluation goal and objectives, you can use one or more of these criteria. So it's not mandatory to use all of them. Okay. What is important is that you have behind this criteria some hypotheses. First is if the program policy project should be relevant to the context, then coherent if they are coherent with other ones, if the results achieved is achieved in an efficient way, if the impacts are important for sustainable development. Each of these criteria provide a specific understanding of the intervention. But if you want to have the whole perspective, the whole image, you should use all of them. So you can use 1, 2, 3, but only because you want to see some specific issues. If you want to see the whole picture, you should use all of them and more. There are 2 principles behind this criterion. The evaluator should choose the most useful criteria based on the evaluation goal and objective. And to use the use of criteria depends on the purpose of evaluation. So don't use them as granted. Use them because you think exactly that they are important for you. Sometimes, and I think you saw in the terms of reference, the organization asks you, international organization and so on, ask you to mention all these criteria in your evaluation. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes not. At least that criterion related to impact, sometimes it's very difficult to measure it. Okay, so let's talk from relevance. What we see through relevance is if the intervention is doing the right things. And I will explain more. Coherence, if how well the intervention fit with the context and with the other type of intervention that we have. Effectiveness, we have effectiveness and efficiency. Be careful because are two different criteria. Effectiveness is the intervention achieving the proposed objectives, and efficiency, how well the resources are used. So all the time efficiency is related to cost, to resources, yes, economic. Then we have the impact. What are the changes that the intervention does? And then we have sustainability, if the benefits, if the effects goes after the program will finish. Questions until now? No. Let's see if I can share my, oh, I'm okay. So, relevance. Main question is the intervention doing the right thing? Why? We ask this. When we design the intervention, normally the intervention do the right thing.
Mostly in both parts.
Why?
Because if it's not relevant, what's the point of setting goal the objective?
But how we see if it's relevant or not?
Um,
What are the, let's see, the baseline in which we decide, yes, it's relevant or not? Needs assessment. Okay. So it looks at the link between the target group needs and the intervention objectives and priorities. So it looks at if the needs are satisfied by the intervention. We have four main dimensions here. First, to respond to the needs, policies and priorities that we have. Then, to be sensitive and responsive to the context. Then, the quality of design. Laura mentioned before that it's important to see the design of the intervention also. Not only the design of evaluation, you should know the design of the project, of the program, of the policy at the beginning, and then to make the design of the evaluation. And to be responsiveness over time at this criteria. Be careful that sometimes the needs change during the program intervention. And you should look at these changes, and you should look if the program adapts their activities in order to satisfy the needs. If the program change some parts of it in order to respond better to the needs, means that the team of the project, of the program, of the policy looks very well at the target group. And I think in the first day, we mentioned that if we look at this, we can change also some big parts of the programs. At the national level, we should have this needs assessment and to say that is not relevant, this part is not relevant to the context, so we should change it. We should move money to another part, or we should add other objectives, change the objectives, and so on. But these decisions should be based on data. It's very important to have evidence for all of this. Coherence. We look at how well does the intervention fit with other interventions in the country at the local level, sector, or institution. I think you saw a lot of interventions that are overlaps. We see a lot of programs that or projects that do almost the same thing in the same area, unfortunately, with the same target population. And at the end, we should look at, okay, we need all these type of intervention only in this area, or we should split the effort, or we should look at other type of, yes.
Again, about the definition, right, coherence, when we talk about coherence, it's usually goes beyond compatibility and consistency. It's really also about sequencing. So let's say we're doing about renewables, it's not only working on separate parts of the sector, but doing it in the right sequence.
Yeah.
So first enable the environment and then you will do the rest. But yeah. And
Because you have
for me,
internal and external coherence.
yeah, so, but it's just the definitions here, they talk about, for me, about complementarity. But it doesn't talk about the order in time. Because this could, it says that they are compatible and that they are consistent.
That's efficiency, I think.
No.
Yeah, but
If you do
No,
it
but
right,
it doesn't- No, but it doesn't, I don't think the definition excludes the sequencing. I don't think it excludes it. It
No,
doesn't
it-
mention it, sorry. Sorry.
Does not exclude this, the sequence
Okay,
to,
so
to have a logic
Yeah.
in steps. No,
okay, no, it's because I'm reading that it just says that they should work on different parts. But for me, coherence is. the
not only
flow as well.
complementarity, but also to follow up. Yes,
Yeah.
not to have renewable energy before you prepare the context.
They-
Yes, I know.
That's what it's, okay, so it's fine.
I think value added is an important point in this sense. So it would add any, if any, value to what is a present.
Yeah, I think it's the way also because we often look at complementarity and coherence. We say the intervention should be complementary, and then we say exactly about this, that it should be different areas within the same sector.
Yeah.
But when we speak about coherence, we say that the flow should be right.
Well, we should do
Yeah,
that, so
but-
it should not duplicate everything.
Of course. Yeah,
I
but
can-
it's complementarity for us, but it's just this one combines the two.
What I can tell you, when we apply this in an evaluation of regional program, they have a component of integrated project in urban areas.
so that, no, it's local.
Community local development. And this project should be implemented through two axes. One is in this regional program, the other is in human capital program. Normally, you should have infrastructure before starting to provide services. Doesn't happen. Because first, they start with services because they have 2 or 3 years to implement infrastructure and services, and they realize that if they want to spend the money, they will not have time to finish the infrastructure before starting the service. And when we look with this criteria, it says, come on, maybe you have complementarity because you intend to do this, but if we consider how you implement this, no coherence. Because the steps were not logical. No, was logical in the proposal. But when they realized that they should spend money, they said, forget about this. We prefer to do it the same time.
Which criteria would opportunity cost come under?
Efficiency.
Because when you mentioned coherence, you said shouldn't duplicate another thing. I guess it kind of reverse this, whether it would go across different criteria.
You know, if you consider each criterion, maybe there are overlaps between them, for sure. Depends on you, how you define and what you put in each of them when you make the evaluation. It's not, they give you some questions, they give you some guidelines how to apply the criterion. But sometimes, yes, in fact, You may have some overlaps and you don't know, I put this here or there. Or maybe this thing, it's okay also for relevance, it's okay also for effectiveness, for example. You should decide where to land. Because otherwise you will have information in the report that are duplicated. Or the same information, like the same information with other words in the report.
For me, it adds robustness to the analysis. So you are asking the same similar thing in different contexts, and if they have to be parallel to each other, so it adds robust. We will have more robust results.
Yeah.
Okay, effectiveness. The main, yes.
Sorry about, can you maybe go back to the previous? So when we looked at this tax criteria, which was revised in 2019 by OECD, we were a bit surprised by the new definition of internal coherence. For us, more like previously, internal coherence meant actually really the quality of the logic of intervention. So if things are just coming like indeed the activities are relevant one, to which the objective is relevant and efficient, etc. So we had like a session on this, and we had to wrap our mind around like, okay, synergy by okay, and values like, but okay, this is how this is defined, like the internal coherence defined now by that, and we are bound by the TOR to follow this criteria. We'll just have to follow them. And then this is the reason for which in the moment we start a new evaluation, which is, for example, mentioning the that criteria, but it's for an institution which also has its own guidelines. Yeah, like we always take a look also at the internal guidelines of that organization to see how they interpret the criteria methods that they use. Sometimes they use special methodology, and we are trying to have a language which is understood by our clients, and we create a common language. But it's like we were very surprised when we saw this definition of internal coherence. So that exists there, everybody like pays attention to it, but check whatever the client,
And I think you can add, yes, it's complementary, but you can add the other part also.
And on the opportunity cost bearing thing, I have never had any relation in which I was specifically required to analyze the opportunity cost. But this is connected to the ex-ante design and intervention, in which you are basically, you need to, for me as a program evaluator, you need to assess the alternatives again, so you have like key values to which this result with different costs. So, and because this is usually not done in the ex-ante phase. Yeah, and I don't think I'm satisfied with any of the analyses related to kind of efficiency or alternatives which I have ever done, because there are so little resources are put into this aspect that I, it's
I was thinking of it more, not from the evaluator perspective, I guess, more from the ministry or whatever, coming from the field of minority languages is often tiny pools of money, so it's always thought of that we can only do this or this, not both.
We make this opportunity cost. Normally, when I define in a public policy, when I propose the alternatives, they ask us to make this opportunity cost. But I don't know in evaluation, I do evaluating what I propose, I don't know, but maybe is, I don't know. I cannot tell that I know everything about evaluation.
I mean, you can.
I can, yes, I can. Like, I have a colleague that every time told me, I can, I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I'm okay.
He's a man.
No. And I look at her, okay. And she's 15 years old, and I said, okay, so at 50 years old, I should empower myself more. Okay, so for effectiveness, we look at the objectives in how much we achieve this objective, how much we achieve the results that we propose, and so on. It's not important the cost in effectiveness. It's important objectives versus results. Yes, so in this case, you don't look at cost. Sometimes, if you consider some areas are not important, are not so important the costs. For example, social inclusion of vulnerable groups. Yes, we have a lot of discussions about if it's efficient, is not efficient. Okay, doesn't matter if it's efficient or not in terms of cost, or it's important to see how many people we succeed to include in the society. Yes, I should consider the cost benefit, but not in a large extent in this case. Considering all this policy with green, costs are huge, but we consider the cost or we consider the benefits of this. So not all the time, this part of efficiency is so important. That's why you have two criteria, effectiveness and efficiency. Okay, what is important for effectiveness? Objectives, results across groups, different groups, and to understand the factors that influence the outcomes. What are the factors that trigger my results? Or what are the factors that influence negative my results?
Under this umbrella would be like implementation analysis, outcome analysis, to understand how to achieve that.
Yes. Why we look at these factors? Because it's important for the next programs, next interventions. It's, sometimes we see these factors maybe not in the evaluation reports, but then we have in a lot of literature related to evaluation and related to the specific area. And this helps us to construct our theory behind the evaluation, behind the program, and so on. Okay, efficiency, cost. Most of the time you look at cost, and this means human cost, environmental cost, time, financial, what you have as resources, compared to the outcomes, to the outputs that you have, to the impact. And we have as dimension economic efficiency, operational efficiency, and timeliness. You can have an efficient program, but if this program means an implementation in, I don't know, 10 years, is not okay. That's why we look also at the timeline. Impact. The most trendy, the most beautiful. Okay, what we see here, what difference does the intervention make? Means changes in behaviors, changes in attitudes, competencies, changes in everything. And here at impact, we look at significance, we look at different impacts, unintended effects, because you mentioned before, and transformational change. You know, what is more important for your client is transformational change. This is the most important one. And the most difficult to measure, because sometimes it's very difficult to measure the change. And sustainability, because we discussed about it. Will the benefits last after the intervention is closed? We look at the components of enabling environment. We look at positive effects, but we look also at risks and trade-off. Laura mentioned today that most of the times this risk assessment is not done at the beginning. Unfortunately, sometimes we can have huge risks. Like we have COVID. We have this war. These are major risks. But these risks impact so much our programs. And I don't know, 2 years almost, we move meetings, we change results, we change activities, we change everything. At least in the first year was how we make the data collection. Okay, face-to-face, no. Before COVID, all the clients wants to have face-to-face, even if we have interviews or focus group, face-to-face, face-to-face. After COVID, I don't know how we make the interviews, the data collection online. Perfect, you can do it online. So, okay, what criteria are most relevant for theory-based evaluation? It was too long. Impact, yes, of course. Sustainability, relevance.
Yeah.
I think all of them. But remember that you can put other criteria. It's important to define them.
I wanted to ask about whether transferability could fit in. I mean, maybe that's not the core task of.
Transferability could be included in sustainability. It means to transfer, to scale up an intervention.
Not necessarily, because it could be the exact same scale, but in a different setting.
If you consider that could not be included in sustainability, you can put a separate criterion, but define exactly what you want, because otherwise you can have overlaps between sustainability and transferability.
Yeah.
It means to scale up a project or an intervention. For me, it's in sustainability. But I don't know what you understand by this transferability.
This comes up a lot in your academic papers where you're in the conclusions or the analysis, to what extent, why is this relevant for the broader field? And so I was thinking, if you analyze something and say, yeah, it's a great project, met all of the things, but for the broader audience, is this,
Okay.
it may not be so relevant when you're working very much in this client-based relationship, but for a broader
Yes.
audience, want to know,
If
can
you
I do
consider-
this in my area?
If you consider the academic part, yes, maybe transferability could be another criteria, because for us, it's important that our results could be transferred to other parts. Yes, but it's specific for an area. Like if you make evaluation on climate change, maybe you want to have specific criteria related to your home. And sometimes you have guidelines with these criteria also in the organization. You know, yesterday I discussed with Laura about the academics and to publish and so on. You saw, Laura, why it's important.
Yes, I can see why it's important for some other people.
Don't worry, we need your evaluation results and we make the transferability of information.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Okay, and I think I have the metrics because it's important to. Oh, okay. You can find evaluation metrics or evaluation framework. So it's not all the time when you put on Google evaluation metrics, sometimes it looks like a table with a lot of things. It's not so complicated. In your terms of reference, under each criteria, you saw that you have some questions. So it's the start point for this evaluation framework, evaluation metrics. But what you should put in it, I make is not like a table. Normally, it's not like a table. I put here like a table because it's easy for you to understand, but it's not need to have this table with all these columns. So you have the criterion, then you have the question. Under each criterion, you may have 1, 2,
Oh, yeah.
3 questions. Sometimes, in order to understand better a question, you can put sub-questions. Because when you make the operationalization, how to say, operationalization of the concept, you realize, well, in sociology, we discuss a lot of how to operationalize the concepts. And here is the sub-question. So you can add some sub-questions also. Then you have the measure, the indicator, what you will measure for each question. And it's important to define from the beginning. Sometimes you can have quantitative indicator and to have numbers and so on, but sometimes you will have qualitative one. Satisfaction. Ah, okay, beautiful. How we measure satisfaction. Then you have the baseline data. Sometimes you don't have the baseline data, but sometimes you can reconstruct this baseline. Depends on the project, depends on the program, not all the time. So then you have data sources. From where I take the data to measure these indicators, to respond to these questions. Then you have the methods. I can have secondary data analysis, I can have surveys, I can have interviews, I can have case studies and so on. And then you can put analysis procedure, but not all the time. This part with analysis procedure is very specific and is not included from the beginning. This is the, I say, almost the maximum that you can put.
That's the difference from the academics, because we are supposed to put the analysis straight away. Otherwise, no one can do that. You say, I'm gonna do a resolution. No method, then you're not in paper protection.
Yes. Okay.
Do you put targets? Can you go back? You have a baseline and do you want to do that? Sometimes.
We put indicators, we put the target.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Indicators, but if you want, you can put the baseline and the target, what they want to achieve at the end. So it's okay.
Satisfaction, baseline satisfaction, target satisfaction.
Of course, when you have, not all the time. For example, for satisfaction, maybe you don't have this type of indicator in the program or in the project, but you know that it's important for you in order to see the impact on the beneficiary to add it.
Or you can add like 30% or 20% increase or 5% increase. It's not number, but not much increase.
I don't want to enter in this part with indicators because we should have a specific course only on indicators.
Would you say that sub-question and judgment criteria can be used interchangeably?
Sub-question and?
Judgment criteria. You know, that in some evaluation metrics.
Yes, I think you can.
Because, yeah. We use a lot like the judgment criteria. And I say this because you don't have the target, but you have the judgment criteria, which is that it's a sort of like hypothesis, which you test the evidence before that. No, you don't have the target, you have the judgment criteria. One actually needs to be validated so that actually the answer to the question is positive. But sometimes you could judge, it is considered a bit complicated to put judgment criteria, and it's not that complicated. Very simple example from you have the evaluation criteria relevant, you have the evaluation question, what's the design of the intervention answer, very wide, yeah, and then you break down either through sub-question or through judgment criteria what actually the proper design of the intervention means. That the activities are aligned with the drivers of the problem. That I don't know, the activities are sufficient in order to reach that, or like sufficient, or that something like this. Yeah. So it's not nothing major, but that's why I was curious about your opinion, because you can put some questions Or you can put judgment criteria, which you can use as hypothesis in your, yeah.
Questions? And finish. I succeeded to finish, not to make all the exercise.